The Zephyrian hegemony had been running the galaxy for approximately 3,000 standard cycles, which was impressive considering they couldn't run a decent cafeteria without causing a diplomatic incident. Their empire stretched across 47 star systems, encompassed 63 sentient species, and somehow managed to make filing a simple requisition form require the approval of no fewer than 12 different departments, 3 subcommittees, and one very grumpy filing clerk named Vorthak, who took personal offense to properly filled paperwork. On monitoring station Zerion 7, suspended in the gravitational sweet spot between 2 dead stars, like a metallic tick on the universe's backside, Monitor Chief Crix 9 was having what the humans might have called a typical Tuesday. Of course, nobody at the station knew what humans called anything, because according to official Imperial records, humans were either extinct, fictional, or possibly both. The prevailing theory among the scientific community was that humans were a cautionary tale invented by the Altarian Ministry of Education to frighten young cadets into studying proper xenobiology. Crix 9 flexed 4 of his 6 tentacles in what passed for a stretch among his species, while using the remaining 2 to simultaneously operate his workstation and consume his morning stimulant, a viscous purple liquid that could probably strip paint from a battlecruiser hull. The chief had held his position for 17 cycles, which in Imperial bureaucracy was roughly equivalent to achieving immortality through pure spite and an intimate knowledge of regulation loopholes. Velbeck, he called to his subordinate, his voice carrying the particular tone of someone who had long ago given up on the concept of enthusiasm. Status report on Sector 7 Alpha Null. Please tell me it's still the same boring expanse of absolutely nothing it was yesterday. Junior Analyst Velbeck, a relatively young Zephyrian, with the unfortunate combination of chronic anxiety and an overactive imagination, looked up from his console with the expression of someone who had just watched their retirement fund spontaneously combust. His translator implant stuttered slightly as he spoke, which always happened when he was nervous. Which was always, "Chief, we have a situation." Crix 9's left eye, the one he reserved specifically for examining disappointing subordinates, focused on Velbeck with the intensity of a plasma cannon charging up. Define situation. Analyst. Are we talking minor asteroid drift situation, or the void gods have awakened and demand tribute situation, because my insurance doesn't cover the latter? Unknown contact, sir. Sector 7 Alpha Null. Coordinates. Velbeck's tentacles danced across his console like he was trying to perform some sort of ritualistic prayer to the machine gods. Grid reference Tango 774 Charlie. The chief's stimulant suddenly tasted like disappointment and broken dreams. Sector 7 Alpha Null wasn't supposed to have anything in it except vacuum, cosmic background radiation, and the occasional piece of space debris with delusions of grandeur. It was the kind of sector that existed purely to make navigation charts look more complete, like the galactic equivalent of decorative parsley. Run a full spectrum analysis. Crix 9 commanded, already reaching for his emergency stimulant reserves. And please, for the love of the eternal bureaucracy, tell me it's just another mining probe that forgot to file proper transit papers. Velbeck's fingers, all 12 of them, worked frantically across his instruments. The monitoring station's sensors, which had been designed by the lowest bidder in accordance with Imperial procurement regulations, slowly turned their attention to the specified coordinates, with all the grace and speed of an arthritic glacier. Chief, the energy signature doesn't match anything in our databases. This was problematic. The Imperial database contained energy signatures for every known vessel class, engine type, and propulsion system used by the 63 member species of the hegemony. It also contained energy signatures for approximately 47 extinct civilizations, 32 theoretical engine designs that existed only in university research papers, and one particularly persistent error entry that classified coffee makers as low-grade antimatter containment systems. Run it again, Crix 9 ordered, though he was already reaching for his emergency communication array, and cross-reference with the Xenotech archive, the military classification database, and he paused, his pride warring with his growing sense of dread. The Mythological Entities Registry. The Mythological Entities Registry was exactly what it sounded like, a database of creatures, technologies, and phenomena that were generally considered to be fictional, theoretical, or the result of too much recreational substance abuse by deep space explorers. It was maintained by the Department of Unlikely Things, which was housed in a forgotten wing of the Imperial Archives, and staffed by exactly one person who may or may not have existed. While Velbeck frantically cross-referenced databases, the unknown contact continued its leisurely journey through Sector 7 Alpha Null, completely oblivious to the bureaucratic chaos it was about to unleash. The vessel, roughly 200 meters long and possessing all the aerodynamic sophistication of a flying brick, puttered along at a casual sublight speed, occasionally pausing to scan interesting-looking asteroids with the dedication of a tourist photographing local monuments. "Chief," Velbeck's voice cracked like an adolescent Altarian entering puberty. "I'm getting audio transmissions from the contact. Put it through the universal translator and pipe it to my station," Crix 9 commanded, settling back in his chair with the resigned air of someone about to witness either first contact with an unknown species or the end of his career, possibly both. The speakers crackled to life, filled with the kind of static that suggested the transmission was either coming from very far away or being filtered through equipment held together with good intentions and whatever the galactic equivalent of duct tape was. "Chen, did you remember to recalibrate the coffee maker this morning? Because I swear this stuff could dissolve a plasma conduit." A different voice responded, tinged with the particular exasperation of someone who had answered this question multiple times. "Captain, I told you yesterday, the coffee maker is fine. It's supposed to taste like that. It's coffee, not a recreational beverage." "Well, it's certainly recreational. I feel like I'm drinking liquid adventure." Crix 9 and Velbeck stared at their communication array with the expressions of beings who had just heard their universe's fundamental assumptions challenged by casual breakfast conversation. "Chief," Velbeck whispered. "What's coffee?" "I have absolutely no idea," Crix 9 replied, "but apparently it can dissolve plasma conduits." The conversation continued, blissfully unaware of its audience. "Marcus, we're approaching that asteroid cluster you wanted to investigate. The one that looks like your ex-wife's cat." "That's a very specific comparison, Chen. Also, my ex-wife didn't have a cat. She had a small dog that thought it was a cat." "Well, this asteroid cluster thinks it's a small dog, so we're making progress." Crix 9 activated his emergency protocols, which in the Zephyrian hegemony involved filling out Form 77B, Potential First Contact Scenario, Form 88C, Unknown Vessel Classification Request, and Form 92D, Request for Hazardous Duty Pay Increase. He also sent an immediate alert to his supervisor, District Coordinator Yalf 12, who was currently enjoying what he had assumed would be a peaceful morning of processing routine cargo manifests. The alert reached Yalf 12's personal communicator with the subtle grace of a thermonuclear explosion, interrupting his second breakfast and causing him to spill fermented Altarian grain juice all over his pristine uniform. Yalf 12 had held his position for 37 cycles, which was long enough to develop a personal relationship with panic and recognize its early warning signs. "Crix 9, he growled into his communicator, "this had better be worth interrupting my meal. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get fermented grain juice stains out of synthetic fabric? Sir, we have an unidentified vessel in Sector 7 Alpha Null, energy signature unknown, vessel configuration unknown, and they're apparently drinking something called coffee that can dissolve plasma conduits." There was a pause that lasted exactly long enough for Yalf 12 to process this information, cross-reference it with his morning caffeine levels, and arrive at the conclusion that his day had just become significantly more complicated. "Send me all available data immediately," he commanded, "and activate Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was the hegemony's standard procedure for potentially hostile unknown contact, which involved notifying progressively higher levels of authority until someone with sufficient rank and authority decided it was either someone else's problem or grounds for immediate military intervention. It was remarkably efficient at spreading panic throughout the bureaucratic hierarchy while achieving absolutely nothing constructive. Within the span of one standard hour, the existence of the unknown vessel had been reported to 17 different departments, analyzed by 43 separate committees, and classified as everything from minor navigational hazard to existential threat to galactic civilization. The Department of Xenological Studies wanted to study it. The Department of Military Affairs wanted to destroy it. The Department of Trade Relations wanted to tax it. Admiral Threx Ka, military commander of the hegemony's 3rd Defensive Fleet, received the alert while reviewing tactical exercises in the comfort of his flagship's command center. Threx Ka was a career military officer who had risen through the ranks by combining tactical brilliance with an absolute mastery of military bureaucracy, a combination that had served him well during 17 border skirmishes, 3 trade wars, and one very awkward incident involving a diplomatic reception and a misunderstanding about appropriate ceremonial weapons. Unknown vessel, he mused, studying the preliminary data that had been transmitted to his tactical display. 200 meters long, unknown configuration, unknown propulsion system, and apparently crewed by beings who consume corrosive beverages for recreational purposes. His tactical officer, Commander Nex 7, nodded with the professional competence of someone who had learned to take everything seriously, while maintaining the ability to function in a universe that rarely made sense. "Shall I dispatch a reconnaissance squadron, Admiral?" "Not yet," Threx Ka replied, studying the vessel's course projection. "This coffee concerns me. Any species advanced enough to weaponize their breakfast beverages is clearly more sophisticated than our initial assessment suggests." Meanwhile, aboard the vessel that had inadvertently triggered a galaxy-wide crisis, Captain Marcus Webb was blissfully unaware that his morning coffee had been classified as a potential superweapon by the hegemony's Department of Chemical Warfare Analysis. Marcus was a human, though he would have been surprised to learn that this fact was considered either impossible or catastrophically significant by the local galactic government. "Chen," he called to his engineer, who was currently elbow-deep in the ship's navigation array, "are you getting any weird readings from our sensors?" Engineer Chen Liu extracted herself from the navigation console with the practiced ease of someone who spent most of her time fixing things that should have broken years ago but were held together by sheer human stubbornness and creative maintenance techniques. "Define weird, Captain." "Because our entire sensor array is held together with self-adhesive repair tape and optimistic thinking. I'm picking up what looks like a monitoring station about 3 light hours from here. Big one too. Military-grade sensors, communication arrays, the works." Chen consulted her own instruments, which displayed the kind of readings that suggested either their equipment was malfunctioning, or someone was taking a very keen interest in their presence. Could be a research station, or border patrol, or, she paused, considering the possibilities, really dedicated space enthusiasts. Marcus nodded thoughtfully while taking another sip of coffee that, unknown to him, was currently being analyzed by the hegemony's top xenobiologists as a potential biological weapon. "Well, if they're curious about us, maybe we should say hello. It's only polite." This decision, made with the casual friendliness that characterized most human diplomatic initiatives, sent shockwaves through the Imperial command structure that reached all the way to the hegemony's capital world of Zephyr Prime, where Emergency Session 477 Alpha of the Grand Strategic Council was hastily convened in the Obsidian Chamber of Important Decisions. The Grand Strategic Council consisted of representatives from all 63 member species of the hegemony, which meant that any decision more complex than approving lunch menus required approximately 7 hours of debate, 4 interpreters, and at least 2 diplomatic incidents involving cultural misunderstandings about appropriate meeting snacks. Supreme Coordinator Vex Prime, the hegemony's highest-ranking civilian authority, called the session to order with the ceremonial gavel of democratic process, a device that had been used to start emergency sessions for over 2,000 years, and had never once been used to actually reach a decision. "Colleagues," Vex Prime announced, his voice carrying the particular weight of someone about to discuss matters of galactic significance, "we face an unprecedented situation. An unknown vessel of unknown origin has appeared in Imperial space. apparently crewed by beings who consume industrial solvents as beverages and possess technology that defies classification. Representative Quilf 9 of the Altarian Trade Federation raised one of his 7 arms in the recognized gesture for parliamentary inquiry with potential economic implications. Supreme Coordinator, have we attempted to determine if these beings might be interested in establishing trade relations? Because if their beverage technology is as advanced as our preliminary reports suggest, there could be significant profit opportunities. Representative Quilf 9, replied the Supreme Coordinator with the patience of someone accustomed to species that approached galactic crises primarily as business opportunities. We are not certain these beings are friendly, or sane, or for that matter, entirely real. This last comment sparked a heated debate that lasted approximately 47 minutes, and involved 3 separate accusations of species-based discrimination, 2 threats of trade embargo, and 1 actual diplomatic incident when the Vrex delegation took offense to implications that their traditional foods resembled industrial lubricants. While the Grand Strategic Council debated the philosophical implications of unknown beverages, the human vessel continued its casual exploration of Sector 7 Alpha Null, completely unaware that its presence had triggered the largest military mobilization in hegemony history. Fleet Admiral Zorath Prime, Supreme Commander of the Hegemony's Combined Defense Forces, stood in the Strategic Command Center of Fortress Station Meridian, watching tactical displays that showed the positions of 47 separate battle groups converging on a single set of coordinates. In his 300 years of military service, he had never seen such a massive concentration of firepower assembled to address a single 200-meter vessel that appeared to be engaged in recreational asteroid photography. Admiral, reported his chief tactical analyst, the unknown vessel has begun broadcasting on multiple frequencies. What kind of broadcasts? Zorath Prime inquired, though he suspected the answer would somehow make the situation even more incomprehensible. They appear to be singing, sir. The tactical display's audio feed crackled to life, carrying the sound of human voices raised in what could charitably be called harmony. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship. Wait, that's not right. Chen, what's our ship's name again? The Wandering Curiosity, Marcus. We've been over this. Right, these are the voyages of the Wandering Curiosity, on its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new rocks and new civilizations, to boldly go where probably several people have gone before, but we're doing it anyway because space is really, really big and we might have missed something interesting. Admiral Zorath Prime stared at the tactical display with the expression of someone who had just realized that the most significant military crisis of his career was being caused by what appeared to be a traveling karaoke performance. Sir, his tactical analyst continued, they're also broadcasting what appears to be a recipe for something called pancakes. The recipe transmission, which detailed the proper preparation of a foodstuff that apparently required combining various powders with liquid, and then applying heat until the mixture achieved optimal fluffiness, was immediately forwarded to the Hegemony's Department of Chemical Analysis, where it caused significant confusion among scientists who were trying to determine if optimal fluffiness was a weapons-grade specification. Back aboard the Wandering Curiosity, Captain Marcus Webb was enjoying what he considered to be a perfectly normal morning of interstellar exploration, which involved investigating interesting-looking space phenomena while consuming breakfast foods that any reasonable person would consider edible. Chen, are you picking up any response to our transmissions? Engineer Chen Lu, who was currently troubleshooting the coffee maker with the dedication of someone whose survival depended on maintaining caffeine levels, glanced at her communication console. I'm getting a lot of traffic in the local communication bands, but it's all encrypted. Military-grade stuff by the look of it. Think we should try a more direct approach? You mean like actually calling them up and introducing ourselves like civilized people? Exactly. It's always worked before. This conversation, monitored by approximately 47 separate intelligence agencies, caused what military historians would later describe as the Great Galactic Pause, a moment when the entire Hegemony military command structure simultaneously held its breath while waiting to see what would happen next. Marcus activated the ship's primary communication array and broadcast on the standard universal greeting frequency. "Hello, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the Terran vessel Wandering Curiosity. We're just passing through the neighborhood and thought we'd say hi. Beautiful sector you've got here. Really nice asteroid formations." The transmission reached monitoring station Zerion 7 approximately 17 seconds later, where Monitor Chief Crix 9 was experiencing what he would later describe to his therapist as the most significant existential crisis of his professional career. "Velbeck," he said in the voice of someone who had just watched the universe reveal a practical joke it had been setting up for several million years, "did that transmission just identify the unknown vessel as Terran?" Junior analyst Velbeck consulted his xenological databases with the frantic energy of someone who suspected that their understanding of galactic taxonomy was about to be fundamentally challenged. "Chief, according to the Imperial Registry of Known Species, there is no entry for Terran. Check the historical archives." "Already did, sir." "Nothing." "The Mythological Entities Registry." Velbeck's tentacles moved across his console with increasing desperation. "Searching now, sir." "Chief, I'm getting a match." The entry in the Mythological Entities Registry was brief, dismissive, and about to become the most important document in galactic history. "Humans, also Terrans, Earthlings, Homo sapiens, theoretical species referenced in various unsubstantiated exploration reports and dubious folklore. Alleged characteristics include bilateral symmetry, carbon-based biology, and inexplicable tendency to explore dangerous environments for recreational purposes. Classification, probably, fictional. See also, dragons, unicorns, competent government administration. Crix 9 stared at the entry for exactly 47 seconds, which was long enough for his worldview to completely reorganize itself around the disturbing possibility that mythological creatures were flying around in actual spaceships, drinking corrosive beverages, and singing about exploration while broadcasting pancake recipes. "Velbeck," he said with the calm of someone who had achieved perfect acceptance of cosmic absurdity, "I want you to send an immediate priority alert to every authority figure in the hegemony. Include the complete xenological file, all sensor data, and a personal note explaining that I am not having a nervous breakdown and this is really happening." The alert that followed triggered what became known as the Great Bureaucratic Cascade of Cycle 3247, a chain reaction of emergency protocols, crisis committees, and urgent meetings that spread through the hegemony's administrative structure like a virus with exceptionally good organizational skills. Within 6 standard hours, the existence of humans had been debated by 17 emergency committees, analyzed by 43 scientific advisory panels, and argued about by every major university in known space. The general consensus was that either humans were real, and the hegemony's understanding of galactic civilization needed to be completely revised, or humans were fictional, and the universe had developed an extremely sophisticated sense of humor. The breakthrough came from Dr. Yex Thul, a xenobiologist at the Imperial Science Academy who had spent most of her career studying theoretical evolutionary pathways and had always suspected that the universe was stranger than anyone imagined. "Colleagues," she announced to the emergency session of the Academy's Board of Scientific Review, "I have reviewed all available data regarding these humans, and I believe we are witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history." "Dr. Yex Thul," replied Board Chairman Vorth 14, "please tell me you're about to explain this situation in terms that don't require us to revise every textbook in the imperial educational system." "I'm afraid I cannot make that promise, Chairman. Based on the available evidence, it appears that humans are not only real, but represent a completely independent evolutionary path that developed outside the sphere of galactic civilization." The silence that followed this announcement was the kind of profound quiet that occurs when an entire room full of intelligent beings simultaneously realizes that their fundamental assumptions about the universe have just been proven spectacularly wrong. "You're suggesting," said Committee Member Quex 7, "that these beings evolved on a world that was never contacted by the hegemony, never included in galactic civilization, and somehow developed interstellar travel independently." "That appears to be the case. Moreover, their technology seems to be based on completely different principles than ours."
They've achieved interstellar travel using methods that our scientists consider theoretically impossible, and they appear to have done so while maintaining what can only be described as an aggressively optimistic attitude about the universe. Meanwhile, the source of this galactic crisis was blissfully unaware of the chaos it had caused. Captain Marcus Webb was currently engaged in what he considered to be normal diplomatic protocol, which involved broadcasting friendly greetings while sharing interesting facts about human civilization and inviting anyone who was listening to stop by for coffee and conversation. "This is Captain Webb again," his voice carried across the communication networks of approximately 63 civilizations. "Just wanted to mention that we're carrying a complete digital library of human music, literature, and scientific knowledge. If anyone's interested in cultural exchange, we'd be happy to share. We've got everything from Beethoven to the Beatles, Shakespeare to Stephen King, and complete technical specifications for everything from internal combustion engines to fusion reactors. Also, Chen makes excellent pancakes." This transmission caused approximately 14 separate government agencies to simultaneously classify the human vessel as either a treasure trove of invaluable scientific data or the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history. The military response was immediate and overwhelming. Fleet Admiral Zorith Prime authorized the deployment of the 1st, 3rd, and 7th Battle Fleets, a concentration of firepower sufficient to sterilize entire star systems, while maintaining what he hoped was an appropriately cautious distance from beings who could apparently weaponize breakfast foods. The diplomatic response was equally dramatic. The hegemony's Department of Interspecies Relations activated every protocol they had for first contact with unknown civilizations, which involved dispatching their most experienced diplomatic team aboard the flagship of the combined fleet, equipped with translation software, cultural analysis equipment, and enough ceremonial gifts to establish trade relations with a small empire. Ambassador Keth Prime, the hegemony's senior diplomatic representative, had handled first contact situations with 17 different species over the course of his career. He had negotiated trade agreements with beings made of crystallized energy, established cultural exchange programs with sentient gas clouds, and once successfully resolved a territorial dispute between two species that communicated entirely through interpretive dance. None of this had prepared him for humans. "Captain Webb," he broadcast from the diplomatic vessel's communication array, "this is Ambassador Keth Prime of the Zephyrian hegemony. On behalf of the 63 member species of our civilization, I extend greetings and welcome you to this sector of space." The response came back almost immediately, carrying the kind of casual friendliness that suggested the speaker was either completely unaware of the massive military presence surrounding his vessel, or was the most confident being in galactic history. "Ambassador, great to meet you. This is fantastic. We were hoping we'd run into some locals. I'm Marcus, and this is my engineer Chen. We're from Earth, which is, well, it's probably pretty far from here. We've been traveling for about 6 months now, just seeing what's out there. Your sector's beautiful, by the way. Really impressive asteroid formations." Ambassador Keth Prime consulted his briefing materials, which contained approximately 400 pages of analysis regarding human cultural practices, technological capabilities, and potential threat assessment. None of it had prepared him for what appeared to be an interstellar tourist. "Captain Webb, Marcus, we are honored by your presence in our space. Might I ask, what brings you to this particular region?" "Oh, we're just exploring. Chen and I decided to take a sabbatical from our regular jobs and see what's out there. We've got a pretty good ship, plenty of supplies, and a curiosity about the universe that's probably going to get us into trouble sooner or later." This casual admission that humans engaged in interstellar exploration as a recreational activity caused approximately 12 separate military analysts to revise their threat assessments. Any species confident enough to treat interstellar travel as a hobby was clearly operating on a level of technological sophistication that defied conventional analysis. The conversation continued for approximately 47 minutes, during which Captain Marcus Webb cheerfully answered questions about human civilization, Earth's location, and the technical specifications of human technology, while apparently remaining completely oblivious to the fact that he was surrounded by enough military firepower to reduce his ship to constituent atoms. We're a pretty friendly species, Marcus explained to an audience of several thousand military officers, diplomats and intelligence analysts who were recording every word. Most of us just want to explore, learn new things, and maybe make some friends along the way. We've got our problems back home, politics, economics, the usual stuff, but space exploration has always been about the best of what humans can be. Engineer Chen Lu added her own perspective. We're also remarkably good at fixing things that should have broken years ago. Our entire civilization is basically held together by creative engineering and pure stubbornness. That's true, Marcus agreed. Chen once fixed our fusion reactor using spare parts from a kitchen appliance and some creative welding. Humans are really good at making things work even when they shouldn't. This revelation that humans could perform fusion reactor maintenance using household equipment caused the hegemony's Department of Engineering to immediately classify human technical knowledge as potentially revolutionary and begin planning the largest technology exchange program in galactic history. The crisis reached its resolution not through military action or diplomatic negotiation, but through what would later be remembered as the most anticlimactic moment in galactic history. Captain Webb, Ambassador Keth Prime finally asked, "What are your intentions regarding the hegemony? Are you seeking territorial expansion, trade relations, or, oh, nothing like that?" Marcus replied with the easygoing tone of someone discussing weekend plans. "We're just passing through, really. Though we'd love to stop somewhere and resupply if that's possible. We're getting low on coffee, and Chen's been threatening to mutiny if we run out." "That's not a threat," Chen's voice added from the background. "That's a promise." Fleet Admiral Zorath Prime, who had been prepared for everything from invasion to first contact with a superior alien civilization, found himself staring at tactical displays showing the largest military mobilization in hegemony history. A raid against two humans who were worried about running out of coffee. The aftermath of what became known as the human incident reshaped galactic civilization in ways that no one could have predicted. The hegemony's first official contact with humanity led to the establishment of the Terran Cultural Exchange Program, the Human Hegemony Scientific Cooperation Initiative, and the Interstellar Coffee Appreciation Society. Captain Marcus Webb and Engineer Chen Lu were officially recognized as Goodwill Ambassadors of Earth, though they continued their exploration mission with the addition of a small diplomatic staff who were tasked with preventing future galaxy-wide military alerts caused by casual breakfast conversations. The Wandering Curiosity was retrofitted with hegemony communication equipment, which allowed Marcus and Chen to maintain contact with their new friends while continuing their mission of recreational interstellar exploration. They also received an unlimited resupply authorization for coffee, which Chen considered the most significant diplomatic achievement in human history. Monitor Chief Crix 9 received a promotion to District Coordinator, and was assigned to establish the hegemony's first permanent Earth monitoring station, which was designed to provide early warning if any more humans decided to embark on casual interstellar exploration missions. The Mythological Entities Registry was completely reorganized, and renamed the previously unknown species database. Those staff members continued to check entries for dragons and unicorns just in case the universe had any more surprises waiting. 6 months after the initial contact, the hegemony's Grand Strategic Council issued its official statement on humanity. The human species represents a unique and valuable addition to galactic civilization, demonstrating remarkable technological innovation, cultural adaptability, and an admirable commitment to peaceful exploration. Also, their coffee is surprisingly good once you get used to it. The statement was signed by representatives of all 63 member species, though the Altarian Trade Federation added a footnote requesting exclusive distribution rights for human coffee within their territory. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, aboard a ship held together by creative engineering and optimistic thinking, two humans continued their journey through the galaxy, blissfully unaware that they had accidentally redefined interstellar diplomacy by treating the universe as an interesting place full of potential friends. The galaxy, as it turned out, was a much friendlier place than anyone had expected. It just took a couple of humans with a coffee maker and an unshakable belief in the fundamental goodness of exploration to prove it. Which, when you thought about it, was probably the most human thing of all.